Good morning. Welcome to our home. I'm Pastor Bruce Willis from Chapel by the Sea in Shelter Cove, California, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Joyce, this morning. Let's start with a song. The sky, the trees, the earth, the seas, God made in 6 days. He gave it all to man for him to live and play. Then God gave man a special gift to make it all complete. He created a woman so soft and warm and sweet. It's like the sun coming up when the right one comes along, like flowers to an empty field, or music to a song. Together walking hand in hand, sharing each other's life, through happiness or sorrow, forever husband and wife. Brother, sister, mom and dad, it seems like all we need. Then one day we wake up alone and life isn't quite as sweet. Though things aren't all that different, it isn't quite as fun living on this earth unless you share it with someone. It's like the sun coming up when the right one comes along, like flowers to an empty field, or music to a song. Together walking hand in hand, sharing each other's life, through happiness or sorrow, forever husband and wife. Okay, let's start at Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all of your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord. The Lord has plans for you, and they're good plans. He made these plans even before he made the earth. He made these plans even before he made you. And he intends to carry them out. Plans to give you hope and a future. Plans to not to harm you, but to prosper you. Let's start at 1 Peter 5:6. 1 Peter 5:6. Humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he might lift you up in due time. Cast all of your anxieties on him, because he cares for you. There's so many difficult things that happen in our life, but the Lord is always there. And he says, cast your cares on me, because I care for you, and I will take care of you. I want to turn back to Ephesians. I love this portion of scriptures. As Paul is comparing marriage to Jesus, and husbands and wife to Jesus and to the church. I want to start at verse 25. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Jesus gave himself up completely for her. He didn't only give his life on the cross, he gave his whole life. He was in heaven with God. Everything owned to him. Everything belonged to him. Everything was created by him and for his pleasure. Yet he came to earth and became a man and made us his brothers and sisters and joint heirs with him, and his intentions are to share all of this glory and all of these things with us. Just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word, and to present her to himself a radiant church without stain, wrinkle, or any other blemish. Jesus takes care of that. We can't clean ourselves up. He cleans us up. But holy and holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated his own body, but he feeds and cares for it, just as Christ does for the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and will be united to his wife. The two will become one flesh. Now, this is a profound mystery. But Paul says, but I'm talking about Christ and his church, that we will be one flesh. Romans 8:28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. In all things, God is working together. You may be going through some rough and hard times right now, but God is working all of these things together for your good. For your good. On over in verse 31, it says, what then shall we say in response to this? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? He didn't spare his own son, but he gave him up for us. That's how much he loves us and how much he cares for us. The Bible says that God proved his love for us in this, that when we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And Christ gave his life for us. So if he did that, how will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? All things. God owns all things. Jesus owned all things, and his intentions are to give us all things. We may lose some few things. We may lose some big things. But waiting for us is all things. And God is going to give them to us. Revelation 21. Eventually, it's going to come to this. Then I saw a new Jerusalem, a new heaven, and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from heaven, out of heaven from God, prepared like a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And there's a description of how beautiful this place was, how beautiful it is. And let me just go over here and then I'll come back. And he carried me away in the spirit to a mountain high, and I seen the holy city Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God. It shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like jasper, clear as crystal. And it had a great wall with 12 gates, and with 12 angels at the gates. And on the gates were written the names of the 12 tribes inscribed in them. Now we see this coming down. The New Jerusalem, this beautiful place coming down out of heaven, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. This beautiful place is only the wedding gown. We are inside there, and we are the bride of Christ. So if the wedding gown is so gorgeous and we get to live in that forever, then just think about how highly he thinks of us as his bride. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, now the dwelling of God is with men. He will be with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more mourning, death, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. John 16:33 says, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. No matter what you're going through, no matter how rough the trials may be, I've told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. In this world, you will have trouble, but Jesus has overcome the world. Remember Job? Preached about him last week. He was the greatest of all men in the East, and he lost everything. He lost everything. He lost everything that he owned. He lost his health. Yet, when he came out the other side, God blessed him with twice as much as what he had before. And if you're going through a rough trial right now, just look forward to the rest of the story as God blesses you with more than you ever had before. And I'm on this subject because I want to bring to your attention our niece, Ayla, her husband, Matt, and their two children, Cole and Kylie. They lost their home in the California fire at Happy Camp. They lost their home and everything in it. And I want to speak to you, Matt, and Ayla, and Cole, and Kylie right now and say, God has better things in store for you. And I want to speak to the rest of you and say, Matt and Ayla are going to need a place to stay until they get their place rebuilt. So they'll need a travel trailer or something to stay in. And if there's anything at all that you would like to do to help them, call my wife, Joyce Willis, 707-498-2207, and it would be greatly appreciated. And remember, no matter how rough things may be, God has better things in store. God bless you.